afternoon, everyone. My name is Janet Cabarrus, and I have gathered us together today to talk about Chicago's life expectancy compared to the percent of people aged 25 and over without a high school diploma. So let's get started. Today we have many different people here, and I would like to go over who they are and why they are here. First, we have a couple of Chicago high school students. They are here because this information pertains directly to them. They are the ones who will benefit from this information. Next, we also have parents who have children in the Chicago school system. They are here because of the heavy influence they have over their children and because they are a big determining factor on whether or not their child graduates high school. For the same reason, there is also a group of teachers here with us today. Teachers also help mold and influence students. This increases the bond between students and teachers, which will only increase the percent of students graduating high school. Next, we have public health officials, because who could better disseminate the information that is being told to all of you today? Chicago residents are also an important factor for disseminating information because they will spread the information around to their friends, and then their friends will tell other friends, and shortly everyone will hear what I'm going to be telling you. Doctors and nurses will also play an important role in disseminating information because they will be talking directly to their patients. Lastly, we have representatives from health insurance companies, private practices, hospitals, and clinics in Chicago because they will be benefiting from knowing that someone's life expectancy can change depending on if they graduated high school or not. This flow diagram just quickly shows how all of you stakeholders interact with each other and play a crucial role in this project. Please take a couple of minutes to look over how you all intertwine with each other. Now let's move on to looking at the data sets, and you can see a quick summary that I have provided. It's important to note that both data sets were grouped by the 77 areas in Chicago. First, let's look at Chicago's life expectancy. The maximum life expectancy is 85.2 years in the north side. The minimum is 68.8 years in West Garfield Park. These two areas have a difference of 16.4 years. Also, the average or mean for the entire city of Chicago is 77.8 years, which means that West Garfield Park is 9 years lower than the average life expectancy in Chicago. Moving over to the percent of Chicago residents who are over the age of 25 without a high school diploma. The maximum is 54.8% in Woodlawn, and the minimum is 2.5% from Albany Park. That is a 52.3% difference. Also, the average for Chicago is 10.8%, which means Woodlawn is 44% over the average, and in Woodlawn, 1 out of every 2 people over the age of 25 do not have a high school diploma. Both differences for life expectancy and being over the age of 25 without a high school diploma are very extreme. Moving along, we are now looking at the data set being broken down by area. I decided to pick the 10 lowest areas for life expectancy and then the 10 highest percentages of people who are aged over the 25 without a high school diploma. So, I have already mentioned that West Garfield Park had the lowest life expectancy at 68.8 years. And that goes all the way, slowly working its way up to 71.9 years, which is still about 6 years lower than the average life expectancy for Chicago. Moving over to percentage of people aged over 25 without a high school diploma, Woodlawn has a very high percentage at 54.8%, and you can see Westtown is still at a 1-to-2 ratio for those over 25 without a high school diploma. Then you can see that Washington Heights has 35.4% of students not having a high school diploma, and this is still much higher than the 10.8% of Chicago's average. As you can see, there were 4 areas that showed up on both lists: West Garfield Park, Washington Park, West Englewood, and West Pullman. Since there were common areas in the worst areas of Chicago in terms of life expectancy and being over the age of 25 without a high school diploma, a statistical analysis was drawn for all areas of Chicago. It was found that there is actually a negative correlation between life expectancy and being over the age of 25 without a high school diploma. This means that as the percent of not having a high school diploma increases, life expectancy will actually decrease, which leads us to our next slide. Looking at this infographic, it is very appealing and has contrasting colors that actually will show high schoolers what their life could look like graduating high school and earning a diploma, and what it could look like if you did not graduate high school. There are also some additional things like stress in college that also play a role in this. Right off, I feel like we appeal to high schoolers because our title states, "Should you graduate high school?" We then move along to a little blurb under the title that states, "In Chicago, 1 in 4 people do not graduate high school." This leads to becoming more likely to live below the poverty line. Here's a contrast of what will happen with and without a high school diploma. We then move on to some simple yes or no questions like, have you graduated? Have you gone to college? Have you received your GED? Do you make over $15,000 a year, which is the poverty line for a single household? And are your stress levels generally low? After answering, it will lead you to one of 2 possibilities. Low life expectancy means that you have not graduated or plan to be graduating from high school, and life has become a bit more stressful. There is also now a 50-50 chance that you will not have a full-time job. This causes you more stress than average, lowering your life expectancy by about 7 years. The other possible outcome is high life expectancy, which states you are able to cope with all your stress by not having money be your biggest stressor in life, and it allows you to have a higher life expectancy. As mentioned earlier, I am hoping the stakeholders will really take this information and use it. Teachers, public health officials, the residents of Chicago, doctors and nurses would ideally be the biggest contributors for disseminating this information. Public health officials will be able to reach the public and schools very effectively when working with teachers and residents. Doctors and nurses will relay information to patients, and everyone is welcome to use the infographic as they wish. Please follow up with me if you have any questions, and thank you again for joining me today.